But I wonder what Britons are making of it. Well, joining me is historian Dr. Sarah Richardson, Associate Professor at Warwick University. Sarah, what a pleasure to have you on this momentous time. It's actually a big time in history, isn't it? It's like a sort of a turning point or an inflection, a cultural inflection, because the last time a royal married an American divorcee was in 1938, and that was King Edward VIII. He had to abdicate as king to marry Wallis Simpson. Now, of course, Prince Harry is no king, less at stake. But has something changed?
Yes, definitely something's changed. As recently as the wedding of Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles, having a church wedding for a divorced couple was frowned upon in the royal family, mainly because the Queen and obviously the heirs are going to be defender of the faith, so they're head of the Church of England. And the church itself only allowed divorcees to marry in church in 2002. So this is quite a momentous occasion for that reason, let alone the fact that Meghan is American and obviously divorced and an actress. All of things which don't really go with the British royal family, I guess. Well,
the British royal families once fondly imagined them to be. Of course, they've had a number of divorces and scandals of their own since. But why is the Queen then OK with this marriage? I presume that she's going to be turning up at the ceremony.
I think she's expected. So I think it's part of the sort of modernisation of the royal family that particularly William and Harry have sort of headed up. Also, Harry, as you say, he's not likely to become a monarch himself, particularly now William's got 3 children. So I think that there's been a relaxation of sort of protocol. And I think it's also down to the choice of the couple themselves, although they would have needed the Queen's permission to marry.
I'm wondering, you know, you mentioned the modernisation of the monarchy, but does the fallout from this very fractured family of in-laws show that the old ban on divorcees may not have been that stupid after all?
I don't think so. I think there have been problems with this marriage, or forthcoming marriage, but if you look at it from the British end, the palace have been totally silent on the matter. So in a way, they're behaving exactly the same as they did in the 1930s, in that sort of not commenting and sort of sailing along as if nothing's happening through this sort of these rocky waters. But you know, they themselves have not entered any comment, even just to say to leave her family alone, really.
When the family don't want to be left alone, it seems. But, you know, look, marriages, the British monarchy always seems to make marriage a very interesting thing whenever it happens. We mentioned Edward VIII. Henry VIII was another one that made marriage a new kind of concept, or the way he did it. I'm just wondering, what difference is Meghan Markle now likely to make to the monarchy, or how it's perceived?
I think it's going to be interesting because she's had a very successful career in her own right, and most of the young women who've married into the royal family in the sort of recent past have not really forged their own careers in the way that she has, or had a very high public profile. So it will be interesting to see how she utilises her sort of skills and her previous knowledge and experience in a new role as a sort of ambassador, if you like, for Britain and for the royal family.
It's interesting. In one sense, the royal family is almost like a walking morality tale, that what they do then becomes fodder for the media and everyone to discuss and debate what modern mores are, that kind of stuff. I'm just wondering whether in inserting someone so transgressive of so many norms that we've taken to be norms at any rate, how that's going to change it. It's almost like this is now something that's so soap opera-ish, so tabloid magazine kind of thing. I wonder whether it changes that sense of the institution being something perennial, something that lasts eons, or whether this is just, you know, another weekly headline filler.
I mean, there have been crises in the past, particularly the death of Diana, for example, was one where the public opinion anyway turned against the monarchy, and particularly Prince Charles and the Queen's reactions at that time. And yet they've sort of bounced back. So I think the enduring sort of mythology and sort of history and pageantry of the monarchy sort of fills a gap in British popular culture. So I don't think that, I mean, these stories won't go away. There will be an enduring fascination with Meghan Markle and her family. But I think as far as the monarchy goes, they will just ride through it. And as I say, there are blips in public opinion, but actually at the moment, I think all that this is doing is creating sympathy for Meghan and for Harry and for the rest of the royal family. So although her family are not helping, I think, it's not actually rebounding on the monarchy as such.
But it's interesting, in other countries it's more pronounced, of course. You go to the King of Thailand, for instance, or the Emperor of Japan. But to some extent, the idea of a royalty depends on people thinking that somehow they're different to you and I. There's something a little different. And I'm just wondering whether this ultra-democratisation of the royal family changes its role in the long term. I don't think it'll do that under this Queen, obviously, but the next generation after that. Are they too normal?
No. I think they still have this sort of air of privilege, and you know, it's the occasions like the Trooping of the Colour, the garden parties, the award ceremonies, the medals, and so on that sort of weave their way into the sort of British culture and the monarchy's place in that. And whilst they're doing all those sorts of things, I don't think that that they'll be seen as, you know, the boys next door.
I don't know, much more of this and I'll be a bit surprised. But listen, of course, Sarah, your interest in this is purely professional, I accept that, as a historian. But personally, what do you think of it all?
I find it fascinating. I mean, professionally and personally, it's I'm always excited in sort of to see how the monarchy changes, how these big institutions like Parliament, like the Crown, react to sort of particular events. So I'm finding it fascinating, and so not just on a professional level, but also personally. So don't worry, I'll be glued to the telly on Saturday.
Of course, taking notes for your next book. Sarah Richardson, thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thank you.